Hey guys, and Quality Shot coming to you live from Wimbledon on site for day 10. We've just wrapped up the quarterfinals here, spoken to a number of players as well, and we've just come out of the Djokovic press conference, so that to discuss. Semi-finals are confirmed, and I've got Liam with me as well.
Hey guys.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty and the detail, just to mention that this podcast is sponsored by Nick Rivets Sport. The link to their website is in the description of this video or podcast, wherever you are watching or digesting this content. Please also do hit that like button, subscribe, follow us, all that good stuff. Liam, it's been a pretty good day. We managed to watch 3 out of the 4 matches and some interesting insights as well. We've got some pretty jam-packed semi-finals confirmed as well.
I think these are really good semi-finals, both on the women's and on the men's side. Of course, tomorrow we're looking at the women's matches. So We've got Sabalenka against Anisimova and Bencic against Swiatek. So let's first potentially touch upon the women's matches of the day today. We started the day off, obviously you were watching Swiatek against Samsonova, and I was watching Bencic against Andreeva, and that one was really... I'll talk about Bencic and Andreeva. I think it was a very tight match in a sense that, there was 2 breaks of serves, and they were sort of back-to-back at the end of the second set. The match was tight throughout, so they were holding serve very comfortably. When there were breakpoint opportunities, there were a couple in the first set, a couple early in the second, that, both players just performed really well in their composure. We spoke to both Andreeva and Bencic. I asked Andreeva a question being like, we all know, everyone's seen it on tennis TV, not tennis TV, but the WTA Instagram, on YouTube, on the live tennis feed, that she has her notebook with all of the sort of quotes from legends of different sports, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, like everyone and anyone. But those are motivational quotes.
Yeah.
So I asked her, do you have any quotes that are sort of to help you deal with a loss or a defeat? Which is like, actually, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea to add something to her notebook, so she'll look into that. Then you spoke to Belinda. What were your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, Belinda talked a lot about actually watching a lot of tape of Andreeva beforehand, which is very interesting. Mm-hmm. Most players will just say, I want to focus on myself, and the team will do it. But with her, she was very much... No, actually, I watched a lot of tape. She's very awkward. Well, she said she's not awkward. She meant she has a lot of variety.
Yeah.
Sorry.
She said basically she has a lot of variety, and she's not an awkward player to play against because she's got the repertoire of all the shots that you might want, and she's so young at the same time.
So she said she's great to watch.
She's great to watch
because a lot of people are essentially ball bashers, right?
Yeah.
Like Sabalenka and stuff.
Yeah, do you want to see someone who's just hitting the ball as hard as they can continuously throughout the match, or do you want to see a little bit of variety?
Yeah.
So,
and it's the first time they played.
Yes.
So she was saying like she's essentially had to adapt.
I was on the court and I was speaking to someone and they were like, what are your thoughts? I just arrived at the end of the first. Yeah. And before the end of the first, and then once Bencic won the first, they asked me like, I think Andreeva's got the comeback in her. And I was like, potentially, but you have to remember Bencic is a very experienced player. Yeah. Of course, this is the deepest run she's made here at Wimbledon and on grass in general, but experience at the end of the day does pay some dividends at times. Yeah,
100%. And this was one of those instances. I think Andreeva was overusing the forehand slice at times, and that was obviously an issue towards the back end of that second set. And Bencic just really managed the tiebreakers a lot better, I think, than... Bencic, she managed the tiebreakers a lot better than Andreeva, even. So, bit of an experience shining through. Andreeva, I think, was quite reflective as usual. Yeah. I feel she took the loss very well, which a lot of people at that age wouldn't.
I mean, on court, she didn't look like she took the loss that well.
Yeah, understandably.
Yeah, but when she was in the press, I was shocked as well. I was impressed as well as how she took the loss.
Yeah, 100%. And she, I think, was saying that she'll take a few days off, she'll reset, and then I expect some big things from her for the rest of the year because I think she's got a big game to do well on any surface. She's going to be dangerous, and I think, if we'd managed to... Well, one thing is she turned up early for a press conference, and that was an answer, which is interesting. Exactly. So if we'd got there maybe on time, I potentially would have also tried to ask her a question and maybe put in just a word to say, I think going into the match, a lot of people were expecting her to win. I just wonder whether at this stage of the tournament, whether that does play on her mind a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's, to me, I think she probably would have said no, because I think she seems
she's very
quite
down
grounded.
to earth.
Yeah,
She's very down to earth.
Exactly.
I would be shocked if she. I mean, we have to compare her to Coco Gauff. In the most recent of times, we have to compare her to Coco Gauff.
Yeah.
If you compare like for like, Mira's been much more composed and much more, I would say, able to just improve her game and stay at a steady level than Coco was when she made her first breakthrough. Coco has had a great career since, but she did have that period where she was struggling to find that next level.
Yeah.
Mira's been able to find that level faster and sort of keep herself very much surrounded by the right people.
Yeah, and I think with Coco, it might not have necessarily been the people, but I think it's just, at that age, it's like a natural thing
reaction
to suddenly have these peaks and troughs and oscillations, right, in form and mentality. And we talked to Anisimova, for example, and we'll talk about her later, but she, of course, had a big breakthrough at Wimbledon, and then she ended up taking a break because she couldn't handle the expectation. I think with Andreeva, I think Conchita's been a big part of that.
Yeah.
She's kept her grounded. They've got a great relationship. And she just seems to be very special in terms of her outlook and personality.
I think we spoke to Conchita, and we have an interview coming up on the channel, the Instagram, the TikTok. It will be coming in the next week or so. Whilst we finish with the chaos here that is Wimbledon, a good chaos, that's to say. You watched the Swiatek match.
Yeah.
That seemed like it was going to be quite straightforward from the start.
Yes.
And Swiatek went up a break very early in the second as well, but then it ended up being 6-2, 7-5.
Yeah, so she was controlling the majority of that match. She obviously has a 4-0 head-to-head record against Samsonova. So, yeah, I mean, she was in control, but Samsonova has been playing some really good tennis throughout the whole of Wimbledon, a lot of variety in her game. And in the second set, she did start fighting back. She actually lost because she got broken at 5-all.
Yeah.
So that was a big shame, I think, because she was serving to go 6-5 up, and if she'd gone 6-5 up, then obviously she guarantees herself at least a tiebreaker. Instead, Swiatek was the one that broke, and then ended up taking the set. And I think Samsonova will look at that and feel a little bit aggrieved that she, just wasn't really up for it, I think, at the end of that second set mentally. And that will probably frustrate her, but I think the head-to-head definitely did play on her mind, no doubt. We spoke to, not to Samsonova, but to Swiatek. I did try to throw in a little bit of little statistic.
Fazan's stats of the day. And, I think we need to put a segment on in the interviews every day. Fazan's stat of the day.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony, you guys will know this, but Anthony loves a stat, and I'm actually not as statistically driven, but I thought, you know what? After she posted that stat that these guys said we shouldn't ask whether round 3, I think it was round 3, something to do with round 3 births, and she posted, I thought maybe she'll like it. So last round I mentioned a stat, and she took it pretty well. She was like, that's cool, and etc. So I thought, okay, let me throw another one at her and ask her, but as a jokingly ask her, like, do you want to hear another record? And she did give a half smile, but then she said, you're just going to tell me anyway. And I said, no, like, I'll ask you something else. And she, in the end, was like, no, tell me. I told her, and she was like, yeah, I'm happy for that. But actually, I'll just refer to my previous interview answer. So that was a little bit of a letdown, I think. And it's interesting, her demeanour was actually quite different to the press where we both were in. Yeah. When she first walked out...
You sounded like... Yeah. You sounded like she wasn't really in the mood too much, even though, you've made your deepest run here at Wimbledon.
Yeah. Which is strange. Yeah. But who knows, like, maybe she's just not quite feeling it off court or whatever, like, something could have happened. Moods happen, whatever else. It could be, it could be anything. So I get it. It was just one of those things, and she gave some decent answers to others, but generally speaking, it was not as lighthearted as the one that we had when we were both in it. And I thought she spoke really well in that presser, and I actually thought that was going to be the start of her giving a lot more in presses, because she was talking about the pasta and the strawberries, and that's how it came up, obviously, on social media. So, yeah, look, I mean, I guess we'll see how she is in the semi-finals. If she loses, I'm sure she won't give us a lot. But if she wins, then who knows? Because she would have then made her first ever Grand Slam final at Wimbledon, which will be a big opportunity.
Deal.
Huge deal. On the men's then, should we touch upon those? So Sinner Shelton, obviously we didn't see, so let's touch upon that first.
So that one, I think it was everyone's expectation. Everyone's expectation was like, what is going to be happening in this match? Where's Sinner at? They saw, obviously, that this morning he was practicing with the arm sleeve. How hard is he hitting the ball? Where is he hitting his spots? How confident is he to back himself to go for it? And then he comes out and he's hitting 130 mile an hour, like, not 130 mile an hour forehands, but close to it. And, I mean, if he beat Ben Shelton here at Wimbledon last year in 4 sets, uninjured, and he's beaten Ben Shelton here in 3 sets, in quotes, injured. I mean, how injured is he?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously you spoke to Ben, so you could talk about him in a second. But yeah, I think Yannick, he obviously had the strapping and then he has compression sleeve on top. And I think he would have most likely had some sort of painkillers or pain injections or something as well to help with any potential pain or, any issues that or discomfort he might have. So, look, he looked clinical. And obviously the first set was a big chance for Ben because he's got a huge serve tiebreaker. You expect him to do better than 7-2, at least put up a bigger fight. And he wasn't able to do so. And then from there, I just thought that first set was crucial for him. And Yannick then was really clinical. And I think in the last set, he actually broke Ben when he was serving at 4-5 to stay in the match. So that probably says a lot about the maybe difference in mentality and, as people would like to say, clutchness in both players' games. I think for Ben, before I go on to Ben, actually, I mean, Yannick, obviously, we're going to preview Yannick and Novak in more detail tomorrow. But on Ben, I think, you can touch upon it more. But I was speaking to the transcribers anyway, and they essentially were saying that he was a little bit down. And my feeling is that he is probably feeling a little bit like, I am only a couple of %
away
off these guys, but it is that percent is huge in tennis. It's fine margins, as we like to say.
Think about it.
And his level is there, but he's I think in his mind there's some certain decisions. I think he was saying something like he should, instead of going for 147, he should have been trying to serve 140 and trying to hit spots essentially. And at times maybe he was playing mindless tennis, I think maybe you could say, and trying to do too much. What happened in the presser? Because you're obviously there, and what did he?
He came in like very down.
Yeah.
Like I've not seen him even after losses. Like even after his loss last year to Yannick, he didn't seem that down compared to what he was today. And I think that's due to the fact that the only guys who have beaten him in slams this year have been Yannick and Carlos.
Yeah.
So as you said, the percentages is everything.
Yeah.
Like you might be away by 1 or 2%, but it just completely changes the dynamic of a match having that extra 1 or 2%. I asked him basically, you've had a great grass court season because, I think this clay court season and this grass court season were more learning opportunities for him. Yeah. Of course, he performed well here last year, but he performs well at the slams in general. Yeah. But he's still young, he's still learning, he's relatively fresh on the tour compared to an Alcaraz or a Sinner who have been on the tour for like 5 years now. Ben, he sort of made his breakthrough in like 2022, 2023, so he's still really relatively fresh. And he was saying, I'm taking positives away from this. I've returned well, I've moved well, which I think is the most important thing. And, I didn't manage to get a follow-up question in, but he was talking, moving through the ball, which is what we had overheard, which he was speaking to his dad when he was practicing against Carlos. So he's got a lot of opportunities down the line. He says he wants to focus all of his attention now on this 6-week block between now and the US Open. Try and get his game into shape, because that's what he wants to be fully focused on, fully prepared for, is the US Open, because he's played well there before. And he thinks he can do it. So that was the Ben one. I think started out sad and it started sort of moved more towards motivation for the future of, his game.
Yeah, and that's good, and that's what we want to hear, because I think he's a really good talent. And actually, when we were watching him hit with Carlos on the practice court yesterday, and obviously that was going to be a question we were gonna put to Carlos as well, but that half an hour, it's only half an hour, but that half an hour, I was watching and thinking, this could be the final because of the way that the draws are. And I actually think, and it's difficult because it's only practice, we're not talking about points here, but the way that he strikes the ball and the way that he was keeping up with Carlos and just his serve and his return, I was just thinking, he's come on a long way from someone who was just essentially a serve bot, and then he was a serve bot, and then his forehand was, okay, it was big, but it was very streaky. It's now become pretty consistent and a real weapon, and he can rely on it more. And the backhand as well is a real liability. Yeah. He's now actually able to hold up nicely on the two-hander, exactly. And instead of just slicing constantly. And he's mentioned that in presses. So, and we know he's got great touch at the net, and he's an athlete. Like, he moves really well on all surfaces. And he put in a good showing against Carlos at Roland Garros. Obviously lost, and then here again against Yannick, again a decent showing. But I think what he's going to be most frustrated about is that he didn't make any progress against Sinner. In his eyes, he might be thinking, I've gone backwards because last year I took a set off him. This year I've lost him in straight. So there are 3 tight sets, yes, but in his mind he won't be thinking that.
No, exactly. But I think lessons to be learnt.
Yeah.
But positives ahead. I mean, you're losing to the world number 1 at the end of the day. You're not losing to.
No,
Bob's
100%. Yeah.
So,
but he wants to be that. That's where he wants to be, right? He wants to be winning slams. That's what he's at.
I have. You know what? I've become very much a Ben believer.
Yeah.
A BB. Ben believer.
Yeah.
I think he's. Honestly, I think, especially at the US Open.
Yeah.
Maybe not this year. Maybe not next year, but as he adds more variety into his game and sort of hones in, as he said, that 147 to 140 mile an hour aspect, I think he's got tremendous potential of winning a slam, and I think he probably, will be top 5 very, very soon. Looking at the other men's match, I think we quickly touch upon the performance of Flavio Cobolli. Yeah. He performed extremely well in that first set. Yes. I mean, we spoke to him. We only spoke to Flavio, not Novak, as we said earlier. Unfortunately, we didn't get a question in with Novak. But I asked Flavio and I said, you were going for your shots.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You can't be tentative against the best players in the world who have won slams. You have to go for your shots. Is that something you remind yourself mentally, continuously throughout the match? Like, go for it. Go for it. Like, in between points, go for it. Be confident. Just don't take your foot off the gas. And he says, no, you know what? It comes naturally to me. That's just my game. And he was happy with how he played in that first, third, and fourth sets. I'm talking more now from what he was saying in the Italian section, because obviously Fazan, as much as he is a man of the people, maybe the Italian section might not be there. But he was saying, in the first, third, and fourth, he was there, and he was happy with how he played. The third set, he said he lost a little bit of adrenaline through his body. And that's normal after you built up so much adrenaline in that first set to get it over the line.
Yeah.
I watched the third set.
Yeah. He
played incredible. You watched the fourth set. Djokovic managed to make, I'd say a good escape out of the third, because Cobolli was, Flavio was really bringing his game to him. And then, I think it was one game at 5-all, and then Djokovic broke for 6-5 to serve for the set. That, was a game that, just a couple of unforced errors that really made the difference, unnecessary unforced errors. You watched the fourth set. What was your thought process there?
Yeah, I thought, again, he played some really good tennis. I was very impressed with just his application on court. I thought he defended really well against Novak. He was trying to put himself on the front foot in the points. As he mentioned in the presser, he was trying to go for his shots. He was serving big. He was returning really well. Novak was visibly frustrated at times, and I think Cobolli was able to kind of hit winners into open court and open spaces by opening up that space with angles. I was really impressed with his game. He's got great touch and volley as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, look, he's a real talent. I think this tournament has definitely shone a light on his game, and rightly so. And he should be, obviously, I get it. It's his first real proper run, and he lost to Novak, and I get that he should be saying he's a legend and that, but I think he needs to start gearing now after this run towards the Ben Shelton, thinking and
maybe it's the
and philosophy,
the on-sponsored players.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Roger Federer knows, but yeah, the philosophy of look, I'm good enough to go and win these, and look, he has some things to improve on, no doubt, but I think he's got a varied enough game, and he talked about it in the press conference. He has an all-court game, which should mean that come now, not just at Roland Garros or at Wimbledon on clay on grass, on the element surfaces, but actually on hard court now, moving forward, we should see more and more of him in these tournaments, going deeper and deeper. So I think he has a lot to be proud of and be happy about, and a lot to build on. But look, I mean, that third set as well, Djokovic was 40-15 up.
Yeah.
And he saved 2 match points, Kabali. One of them, of course, was a slip at 40-30, but...
You mean the fourth set?
Sorry, did I say third set?
Yeah.
Fourth set. In the fourth set, when Novak had match points. So he took him to juice. He was returning really well. He actually, the first match point he saved was a return winner, short angle cross court, and Novak tried to serve a volley by hitting the slider out wide. It was a Novak-esque return. And I watched it thinking, Novak must be thinking in his head, this is what it's like to serve against me. Like, he must be thinking in his head, damn, like these guys are coming. But
we spent some time in the Djokovic presser, and he was talking about these guys are coming for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm at the head of the table in terms of the accomplishments. Everyone wants me as a target, although he's not the one winning slams nowadays. But
it's good in your resume, right?
It's good to get in your resume. It's not like you're beating Rafa Nadal at the ATP finals in 2022 when it's an indoor hard court. It's never been his best surface. He's never been his best tournament, and he wasn't at his best physically. You're still here. We're talking about Novak Djokovic, who
has made finals the last 2 years.
Finals the last 6 years here.
Yeah, 6 years.
And he's playing what is Djokovic's peak? When is Djokovic's peak years? 2011, 15. Yeah. But then you can say this is not his peak, but for his age, this is a peak.
Yeah, I mean, it's a peak for 99% of players.
Oh yeah,
right?
That's
the thing, and I think that's what the difference is. And he's 30. I think he's 38 now. Actually,
38.
He's 38 years of age, and look, I mean, I was looking at him on court, and I was looking at him very closely, just trying to look and see, is the age finally starting to show? Because
I think whenever you look for that, you don't get the answer you expect.
No, yeah, well, because with him, they say that it can happen overnight, right? Suddenly you feel it, and we kind of thought that might be the case when he lost to Sinner last year, and then he's proven us wrong. And yes, he hasn't won a slam, but he's still making these deep runs, right? Himself, Carlos, and Yannick are the only guys to make slams, semi-finals of the slams this year, right? They're the only three.
But semi-finals, you mean?
Yeah, semi-finals. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you would say
they're the only three.
Yeah.
So
you would say that his
slams.
Ability to make that is just testament to his knowledge of the game.
Yeah, and
it's sometimes
right?
experience that really takes these things over.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I mean, he managed the situation really well. The crowd were getting very rowdy.
Yeah.
The Italians are really going for it. He did complain a little bit about the crowd as well to the umpire. Didn't mention it
motivates him.
I was sitting next to Steve Flink, and I was saying to him, I think he's complaining about the crowd to the umpire, because at that point it was very tight, the fourth set. And I think he was complaining to get himself revved up and 100%. Essentially try and use the crowd as to paint them as almost like the enemies, that he could motivate himself and get himself riled up to. And we know that when that happens, he plays
it goes his way
incredible
most of the time.
Exactly, like he knows that's something that is in his locker. So
I think we'll do a deep dive preview tomorrow into those men's semis.
Yeah, let's talk women's. Yeah,
we've had we've got a very, very good lineup, I would say, for those men's semis, but we've also got a very, very good lineup for these women's semis.
We do.
I'm going to ask you, as always, at the end of every podcast, quick fire, winner and sets for Arina Sabalenka against Amanda Anisimova.
I'm going to Sabalenka in 3 sets.
Okay. Belinda Bencic against Iga Swiatek.
It's a tough one because Bencic is playing really well. I'm going to go Iga in 3 as well.
I feel like that Bencic-Swiatek match it reminds me a little bit of a couple years ago when it was Swiatek against Svitolina.
Yeah. In quarters, yeah.
I think that reminds me a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But I think this time Swiatek gets it over the line and she goes in 3.
Yeah.
I think Sabalenka gets the win in straights.
That's interesting. I mean, Anisimova, so she has I think it's a 5-3 winning head-to-head against Sabalenka.
Yeah. And they've played a fair few 3-setters in those.
They have, and they've never played on grass. Anisimova actually had a breakthrough, of course, on grass, but Sabalenka's game is super suited to the grass.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say is that it's supposed to be very hot in the next few days. So, touching on Swiatek, these conditions are the most ideal she's ever going to have on grass.
Yeah.
Because it's baking. The grass is very like, I mean, they're talking about it being clay-like. I don't know if it's necessarily clay-like, but we're talking about it being very kind of hard soil. So the ball's bouncing more and it's acting more like let's say a hard court. And then on top of that, because the grass is now wearing so much and she's never made a semi-finals before, but as we know, when the tournament gets further and further along, the court gets slower and slower and centre gets slower and slower. So for her, that is perfect. That's exactly what she wants. So that's a big advantage.
She needs to make these deep runs to get that feel of the grass.
Exactly. And Bencic shows great variety. She's got a really good game. She served really well today because you're saying only just the one break of serve.
Exactly.
Swiatek is arguably the best returner on tour.
One break each.
Yeah, one break each. But as in, for Bencic only got broken once as well, yeah. And but for Swiatek, she's the best returner on tour. So Bencic is going to have to serve really well, I think, and hold her nerve. It's interesting because she was talking about studying tape, and I'm very interested to hear tomorrow when she does her presser, whether she wins or loses, what her game plan was.
Yeah.
Did she watch the tape, and then what was her game plan? Because she didn't talk about it today in detail necessarily. She talked about it a little bit with me, but I would like to hear what does she feel she can exploit in Iga's game. For Sabalenka and Anisimova, that's an exciting one because that's essentially just going to be she was talking about people quote unquote ball bashing. She didn't say that. She said about just hitting the ball hard.
Yeah.
This is just a shootout between Anisimova and Sabalenka now.
Who hits the hardest and who gets it in the closest.
What's
to the
going to
lines.
be interesting though is watch Sabalenka because she said something very interesting. I don't know if you noticed. I think you were in the press with me.
Yeah.
But when she won, and she said these, I think to paraphrase, I don't know exactly what she said, but she said that Anisimova, she's not going to be slicing as much as Sigmund. So there's not going to be as much slice from
Maybe
her end.
she'll be doing the slicing
So what she implied was that Anisimova's not going to be slicing much because that's not her game. But I might slice more than I did today because I know that can disrupt her rhythm. And at that point when she said that, I thought in my mind, she's already thinking in her mind, how do I approach the next match? And that is a real sign of a champion, already thinking ahead. And I think we will see her hit the backhand slice.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a forehand slice, but I think we'll see her hit the backhand slice.
I don't think we'll see forehand at all.
Well, we'll see. Don't count it out because with Anisimova's power, at times she might have to. She's on the right, she's defending.
I feel like
if she's defending, she's going to have to at times.
I've not seen that from her in these matches.
Well, Sigmund, she did. She did. Yeah,
but
she
it's
did.
It's a bit. That was a different game style. I don't know if she'll be able to get as much control as she would like to.
No. So it won't be as a necessarily variety or an attacking sense. But against Anisimova, because she has so much power, when she's on the stretch in the forehand corner, she's going to have
if it's that far out, probably
she's going to have to slice at times just to defend, essentially.
Sort of like what we do in club tennis.
Exactly. 100%. And then what she'll also do, and what she's been doing really well, and it's such a good addition to her game, is a drop shot.
Yeah.
Anisimova,
she's been practicing that. I saw her practicing that today.
Exactly, yeah. She was practicing today. We watched her 2 days ago, or yesterday even, maybe practicing as well.
We were watching Carlos, but from the far end,
she was practicing,
I was looking at her on 3 courts away, and when I was looking at her, she was practicing those drop shots. Those drop shots, she was practicing a lot the backhand side drop shots, cross court.
Interesting, okay.
So... Going back to the backhand side of Amanda, because I don't think she wants to be giving her maybe a drop shot that gets to her forehand.
Yeah.
So that's something to look out for. But I think tomorrow's matches are extremely tight in any sense.
Yeah,
and we've got hopefully we'll get in to watch both of them.
Yeah.
But in any case, it'll be a very good day. You know, today's been day 10, tomorrow day 11. We're expecting big things as well. We've enjoyed, I would say, the openness of a lot of players.
Yeah.
Players, I think, are starting to open up a little bit more in terms of their mentality, of their tactics as well. We're trying to focus a lot on that as well in our questions. But with that, I think, please, guys, check out the content on the YouTube, the Instagram, the TikTok. We try and get as much as we can out of this opportunity for you guys, and it helps us really grow the channel. We've been very grateful for all the support you've given us across not just this tournament but also the years, and it really allows us to provide you with the best content possible. So please let us know your thoughts and any questions you might have in the comments or any platform you might be listening this onto. And any closing thoughts, Fazan?
Yeah, no, 100% to echo what Liam said. Obviously, we're here because of you guys. So anything that you guys think we could do better, or anything that you would like to see or hear, then do let us know. Also, interesting anecdote before we sign off is that me and Liam got to chat a little bit to Carlos's brother and Carlos as well after their practice session, which is quite fun. So they were playing I don't know what game, bowls, I guess, potentially.
They were playing
hand golf. Hand golf, yeah.
Hand golf.
Into a little hole, like a divot in between courts, and Carlos's brother got it straight away, like hole in one. So he was going ballistic, celebrating, and then Liam managed to chuck in a little bit of Spanish and chat to his brother.
Hola, me llamo Liam, throw in there. Easy peasy.
And also a little bit to Carlos as well. I don't have Spanish in my repertoire, so...
But you still spoke to him, though.
I did speak to him,
and he gave you a good quote. Yeah,
so we gave a little fist bump, and then actually as we were walking, we just kind of happened to be walking not side by side, but abreast, you might say, which is very, very formal way of saying it. And I just said to him, look, don't worry, you win next time. And he turned around and said to me, he laughed and he goes, yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to let him win next time. I thought that is a typical younger brother, older brother relationship, and obviously is showing his real competitive side. Yes. But their training sessions are great because
it's a bit of a mixture of serious but fun.
Yes, at the end there's always some fun, and also there's a little bit of fun, and we see it with Sabalenka as well, which is great. Obviously the fitness coach is standing or like my coach
tries to hit him, or not hit him,
as in trying to serve through his legs, which is quite funny and things like that. They did Red Arse today as well, obviously when they lost. So that's great. And I was saying to some of the other journalists that the practice sessions are great to understand, how the team dynamic is. Is it really gelling and cohesive, or is there a bit of edginess and it's not quite working? Because last year, for example, with Rybakina, I saw her with Vukov.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and obviously we don't know what's going on there. But what I'm saying is that what I'm saying is that I saw that and I was like, this is
a bit weird.
This is not this is out of the ordinary.
But the best players who perform well are the ones who surround themselves with the team that gives them both the knowledge on how to play the game, but also allows them to detach their mind from the stress.
And they seem like they're enjoying it. That's the biggest thing I feel like. And
you want to enjoy your life.
And even Yannick, right? Yannick is a bit more serious.
But he still enjoys himself.
But you can see that he's still smiling. There's someone walking over, he'll chat to them. It just
depends who the people are for Yannick.
Exactly.
Carlos can enjoy himself with a lot more people than outside of his team. Yeah. Yannick is more within his own team, but he enjoys himself.
Yeah.
But I would say... Fazan's favourite part of the day, which I think has brought the smile on his face for the entire day, was that little fist bump with Carlos and the little giggle that he got out of him. But no, thank you guys as always, and we will see you guys tomorrow, and hopefully we're in for another good one. Yeah, 100%, guys. Have a great evening. We will see you tomorrow for semi-finals day for the women's, and we'll try and also we'll do some shorter videos as well for the semi-finals to check those out as well. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys.